I think three important verses in this passage is verse 4, the just shall live by his faith. Verse 14, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. But the Lord is in his holy temple, that all the earth keep silence before him. You know, the prophet Habakkuk was called the wrestler. His name is called the wrestler or the embracer. His book is written in Hebrew around 630 BC. It features the people concerns. You understand? So Habakkuk, the book of Habakkuk it concerns with the people concerns. Remember, if you read the text, Habakkuk said, I would stand my watch. He was concerned that God was using the whip of the Babylonians to punish Judah for its sins. And he was saying, how could you use that? How could you? The Babylonians are more wicked than us. They are more wicked than Judah. They are more evil than Judah. How could you do that? It seems to be a contradiction. And so you would say, God said in chapter 2, I would answer you, Habakkuk, because you are concerned. You are taking the concerns of the people to me, and I will answer you. And I think the message of Habakkuk is that when we see injustice, when we see things are not right in the church, because it was in the land of Judah, these things were happening. You know, the prophet Habakkuk recognizes Israel's weaknesses. He is concerned with the nation and God using to punish Israel for its sinfulness. The Babylonians, the Chaldeans, it's an evil nation that is prosperous, it is wicked, it's destructive, and killing off his enemies. This is the issue of injustice that haunts the prophet Habakkuk. Consequently, at the end of the book, Habakkuk is not the same person. He promises loyalty to God, even though he does not understand him. Yes. Yes. As I said, Habakkuk presents the concerns of the people to God. He's concerned that God is apparently doing nothing to the injustice. Sometimes are we not concerned about injustice in the church or injustice that are going on in the world? Sometimes we feel that we can take things into our own hands. Sometimes we do. Sometimes you see the kind of stuff going on in the church, a headache, you know. Pastor's life will be so headache, to have somewhat headache by the members. And sometimes you give the church a bad name by the difficulties that the people. But Habakkuk, God told Habakkuk, don't worry. The just, those who are just, those who are righteous, those who will live by their faith, behold the proud. And you know, the book of Habakkuk has 5 woes. I'm checking out the word in Hebrew for woe. Woe is a word. The Hebrew word woe is ho, and it means judgment, or a warning. So Habakkuk says in verse, what does he say? In verse 6, yeah, woe, or a warning to who increased in what? He loads himself in many pledges. In other words, those who are greedy, there'll be woe to him, a warning to him. Remember, Jesus said, woe to the Pharisees. Woe is not it's a word of threat. It's a word of warning. He said, woe to him who increases what is not his. How long? To him who loads himself with many pledges. Will not your creditors rise up suddenly? They will not awaken who oppress you. and you will become their booty because you have plundered many nations. All the remnant of the people shall plunder you because of men's blood and the violence of the land and the city, of all who dwell in it. Woe to him who covets gain for his house. So woe is a warning, is a threat of coming judgment, of God's anger, of God's displeasure on those who are greedy, those who increases in great gain. Woe to him who covets, woe to those who are covetous, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of disaster. You give shameful counsel to your house, cutting off many people, and sin against your soul. But for the stone will cry out from the wall, and the beam from the timbers will answer. Woe to him who builds a house with bloodshed, who establishes a city with iniquity. Again, that's the third word. God is threatening people in Zion. God is threatening people in the church. God is threatening Judah. He is warning them. Woe to them who builds a house, on injustice. Those who do exploit, those who take advantage, those who are engaged in murdering. Sometimes people don't murder people by killing them, but by what they do to them, the exploitation that they go under. Yes? But I love verse 14. He says, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord, the glory of the Lord, as the waters that covers the sea. So Habakkuk, God is telling Habakkuk, God is answering Habakkuk and saying, Lord, I am still in control. I am still on my throne. I am still the ruler. I am still the sovereign of this universe. One day, the knowledge of God will like the waters of the sea. The sea covers about 70 or 71% of the earth. One day, righteousness will be in this earth, in spite of the oppression, in spite of those who are greedy, in spite of those who are involved in covetousness, in spite of those who engage in oppression of the poor, and those who are exploiting his neighbor, those who are engaged in verse 3, woe to him involved in drink and drunkenness, and pressing him to your butter, even to him who make him drink. Those who encourage people in evil, those who encourage people to go in the wrong way, they will be dealt with. He goes on to say in verse, and you who are filled with shame instead of the glory, you also drink and be exposed as the uncircumcised. The cup of God's right hand will turn against you. In the Hebrew, that second masculine singular. You, personally, you will be dealt with. And utter shame will be on your glory, for the violence done to Lebanon will cover you. In other words, God is telling the people of Judah, don't worry about the Babylonians. Worry about what's going on in your life. What worries about going on in your circumstance. For the violence done to Lebanon will cover you, and the plunder of the beast which made them afraid because of man's blood, and the violence of the land and the city and all who dwell in it. What profit is the image? Beloved, God is telling us that one day he will deal with all evil that is in the world, that is in the church. Sometimes the church, Ellen White says, is the only object on earth in which God places his supreme regard. And any injustice, any evil done to the church is considered evil done to God. And so we must not become so troubled that we lose our faith, You know, God told Habakkuk, be patient, wait. Don't run ahead of me. I will deal with the evil that is in the church. I will deal with evil that is in the land. I will deal with the injustice that is going on in the land of Judah. I will deal with it. Don't run ahead of me. Don't be so brokenhearted. Don't be so discouraged. Don't become so angry because of what you are seeing and you feel that you know nothing is being done. I will deal with that eventually. And so this message God gives, or replies that God gives to Habakkuk, is for us today. Don't leave the church because you see things are not going right. Don't become discouraged. Don't fall away. He said, woe to him who says to the word, those who engage, I tell you 5 words. This is the last word. Those who engage in idolatry. Those who say to the word awake, you know, people worship all different things, materialism. They worship their cars, they worship their houses, they worship their money. He said, woe to him. Because God, the message of the 3 angels in Revelation 14, 6 to 12, the first angel announces to worship God. Why? Because he is our creator. It's a warning against idolatry. It's a warning against materialism. It's a warning against accumulation. Because an idol has no breath. An idol cannot help us. God is the supreme ruler. God is the supreme. He's our creator. In the beginning, as Genesis 1 said, God created the heaven and the earth. And so, beloved, today, God is telling us today in this book, Habakkuk, in verse 20, but the Lord is in his temple, and let all the earth keep silence before it. God is still in control, beloved. God is still in control. God is still in the church. God is still in charge. He is in his temple. He is looking at the injustice. He is looking at the problems in our world. He is looking at the challenges the church faces. He is looking at the challenges in your life. He can help you. He is in his temple. He is still in supreme ruler and the supreme. He will be the supreme judge. He will deal with all injustice. Don't worry, Habakkuk. Yes, let the just or the righteous one will live by their faith. Be patient and wait. I would fix. I would put the wrong right in due time. I think that's the message we could take home this morning, that God is in his temple. God is still in control. God will put all the apparent injustices in the world, in the church. He will put, just as the Babylonians were a mighty nation, God is still on the throne, and God is still leading. God is still ruling. God is still, one day, ultimately, he will put an end to evil. He would put an end to the wickedness in our world. Just like in Habakkuk time in Judah, with all the problems, God will fix the problems that faces the world and faces in the church and in the world. One day, he will put it right. God bless you.